topaz. And this is just a quick overview. If you do not know anything about Luminar, it's a very, very simple program to learn. It uses sliders. And when you open the program, you're on the left side over here. This is all your folders with all your photos that you upload. And then you can go to the develop, and then on the right side over here is where you do your edits. On the left side over here, this is where you have all your presets. So let's go through all the slider and see how the editing tools work. You have the crop tool, where you have a few presets where you can do a custom crop. You have your clone and hill tool for removing dust spots and so on. This is your red eye tool. And this is your masking dialog, where you can do all kinds of masking. You can do a select subject, and it works really, really well. You picked up the person and the shadow. You can do, let me delete this one, the subject. You can do, for masking, you can select the sky. If you want to edit just the sky, and when you move with the sliders, you see you can adjust just the sky. You can do a brush mask, so you can paint where you want to edit. You can do a linear gradient, so if you want to just do a regular gradient and edit that side. You can do a radial gradient, which is my favorite. Let's see, for this one, let's say I want to put some haze in the background. So I will do a radial gradient over there and then decrease the haze to create that foggy, hazy, decrease the dehaze, maybe even add a little bit of warmth to it. And now I can go into my mask to the 3 dots, and here you can intersect it, duplicate it, and what not. Or if you click on it, you can also subtract, and I can subtract the subject so the haze does not affect the man. And as you can see, now the haze is only in the background over there. And this is our before and after. I'm gonna erase all these masks, go back, and then what other masks? You have color range. This one you click and you will drag a square over the colors you will try to choose. And let me give you a different example. I am going to choose this, I'm gonna go to color range and choose these oranges over here in the tree, make a tiny square. And now you have this refine slider that you can pick a little bit more exact color, the ones you pick, or you can, increase the fuzziness of it and pick more of that range. So let's say I chose those ones. I just want to increase the exposure maybe to those oranges, and maybe increase the saturation, and so on. That's how you would do that. Then we have luminosity range, kind of the same thing. You pick an area and it makes a selection based on luminosity. Now here you have 2 different helpful sliders here. This one and this rectangle, this is your selection, and this over here, this is your feathering. So if I move the feathering next to my selection, I have a very hard edge on each side. But as I feather it outwards, it gets more and more feathering. You see that? And then I can move my selection around for the luminosity range. So this is kind of like you can make great luminosity masks with this tool. Then now we have our white balance. You can use the color picker over here to choose your white balance. Like if you think this cup is supposed to be white, there you go. And it makes your white balance adjustments. I'm gonna reset those. Double clicking on things will reset them to 0. Then you have your exposure, contrast, all the normal tools, highlights, shadows, white, blacks. You have texture and clarity. Texture is more refined. You can't really go overboard with texture much as you can with clarity. So if I move the texture all the way to the right, the image looks great. But if I move clarity to the right, it's kind of destroying the image. So I usually tend to use texture more than clarity. Then you have your dehaze that you can move it to the right, or like we did in that radio filter, we can make it foggy if you move it to the left. You can have vibrance and you have saturation. Kind of the same thing with the texture and clarity. I like to use vibrance more than saturation. Vibrance, if you go all the way to the right, it will increase the vibrance. It doesn't completely destroy the image as saturation will do. You can see. And vibrance is meant to protect the skin tones a little bit better. Moving down, we have the calibration panel, and here is where you can alter the colors within the image. So you can change the hues and the reds the way the camera sees it. You can change the saturation. Same with the green or the blues. Just a quick tip, I usually like to increase the saturation on the blues on my images, and that it doesn't just affect the blues, it affects the oranges too, and all the other colors. So if I increase the blue saturation, this is my image before and after. But then the blues are too much, and I will just go to the saturation in the color panel and decrease it. But now I still keep my oranges, so you see, before and after. I'll reset that. So that was calibration panel. Then you have the curve tone, if you want to, do a little adjustments, fade it up a little bit, slight curve. You can also go into the individual channels, and you can do that. They have this little toggle on each one of the adjustments, so you can see the before and after. Then you have the hue, saturation, and luminance for each color. And this is the color grading tool. You can go into the lights and let's see, you can add a color into the lights, decrease the saturation. You can go into the shadows or the midtones, and I'll pick like a cyan kind of blue. And there you go. You can mess with the luminance to make it darker or lighter, the color you put in. So this is our color grading. Just a very slight difference. I didn't use a lot of saturation. Then we have sharpening. You can increase sharpening, and it has a masking tool over here. If you click option and move to the right, you'll not sharpen the whole image. You get more to the edges, so you don't need to sharpen the noise and the sky and all kinds of other things. The same thing happens with the whites and highlights and exposure. If you click option and you move it to the right, you will see where you clip the highlights or clip the shadows. In this case, there is no true blacks because we did that tone curve and we lifted the shadows. But if I reset this and go to the blacks, then you see I'll clip the blacks. What else? So that's the sharpening. Then you have the remove chromatic aberration, enable profile correction. You have the histogram here, which is very useful. And did you know that you can edit your image straight from the histogram? If you hover over with your cursor, you see it says shadows, exposure, highlights, whites, and you can just move the cursor onto the histogram and it alters the image. You see it moves the dials. So let's see, I'll make the blacks blacker. You see that? I would not recommend editing your images from the histogram. It's not as, you don't have as much control, but it's kind of fun to just see it and be able to play with it from there. And that is pretty much Lightroom Classic. If you think it's for you, it's really, truly a great program. Oh, it also has this auto button over here that sometimes it's a good starting point. You just click auto and it automatically edits to the best of its ability. And then from here, you can make your own adjustment and change things. Let's see, what else was a few more things. Over here for the crop tool, you have the angle tool where you can fix the horizon. And you can just click this and you pick your horizon and you draw a straight line where your horizon is and it will straighten the photo. I don't think I did a great job over here, but that's how it works. And if you want to apply a preset, for example, you'll just go into your presets. Let's see which one will look decent in here. I don't really like either one of these ones. Let's say I want to do this preset. So you just click on it and now you have your little adjustments that created that preset. This is our before and after, before and after. And you can reset all your adjustments, go back to what you started. And this is pretty much Lightroom Classic. It's my favorite editing program. You can do so much with it. I like all the control you have with the mask to do local adjustments. And I use a lot of these ones over here. And if you do not have it and it's something you're looking to get, it's totally worth it. It's one program I could not live without. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skyler Ewing. I will see you on my next video.